Welcome back to another video. This is your Sim CFI, which means I'm your flight instructor for any simulator purposes. If you have questions on DCS, Microsoft, X-Plane, leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. If I can't answer it, I'll try to find my answer through other people and get the answer to you. I'm also a real-world pilot, so I fly the CRJ 7 and 900 and 900NG as well in real life. Type rated on the 200, but I've never actually flown it. I have some knowledge on that guy as well. So if you have any questions on the CRJs, put them down below. And again, I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. Today we'll be looking at descent planning and specifically meeting star restrictions. We're in Frankfurt, descending into rainy Frankfurt actually today. So we're going to need the anti-ice possibly for some of the higher stuff that we get into the clouds, but we'll look at that as we get in there. So jumping in the flight deck here, I'm paused at flight level 250 at 280 knots roughly. There's no ATC. I'm just doing this as a demonstration. And the restriction on route that we have is the Delta Fox 951 at or above 8,000 feet. For this example, we're going to go ahead and say that Air Traffic Control has requested us to be at 8,000 by DF951. So they actually want us at 8,000. So the trick with this is the RJ, we want to descend for the most efficient descent. We like 3,000 feet per minute, and that's because it allows an idle thrust descent. You can do less than 3,000, but you'll be using power to maintain about 280 to 290 knots in that range, which is usually where we descend. So you can do less than 3,000, but you'll be requiring power to maintain it. So let's go ahead and unpause. And we're just kind of cruising around here, 25,000. They come around and say, hey, descend, maintain 8,000. So what we're going to do first is we're going to bug 8,000 in our altitude selector. I'm doing this with my autopilot panel, but if you don't know how to do this, it's just with the FCP here. And you just scroll the knob. Okay, so 8,000 is there and confirmed. Let's go ahead and do the FMS system here. I didn't really set anything up. I kind of just spawned and kind of quickly did a star. So if there's a lot of stuff missing, that's because there's probably a lot of stuff missing. But we have the stuff we need just to show this. So let's go ahead and go to legs page. And you see DF951 at or above 8,000. We're going to go ahead and go 8,000. You don't have to put a slash. It should know where it wants to go. And now I'm making it a hard altitude. So I'm saying, no, I want 8,000. Not just above. I want 8,000. Okay? Confirm, execute that. All right, so now in real life, I'm going to pause real quick. In real life, we would have a VNAV section here, and I have selected it on through the MFD action here on the right screen. It would be populating now with advisory descent rate, when you're going to start descending, all sorts of information. You'll also get a white snowflake as well on the right, kind of as an imaginary glide slope on your descent. That doesn't really work in the sim. The only one that really works in the sim that works well is the direct intercept page. So we'll go ahead and click direct intercept here, which is this button right there, left flight plan. And you can see that DF951 is currently requiring 2,100 feet per minute. If I want to meet 8,000, it's requiring 2,100 feet per minute. We want 3,000, right? But we're not going to wait till that says 3,000 to start our descent, because if we do that, you're going to get all the way down to 8,000, but we'll be at 290 knots. You won't be able to slow down. So what we're going to do is wait till this says maybe 26 because of the anti-icing condition outside. With anti-ice, once I turn the cowls on and the wings on, you're going to see that the N2 is going to rise, which means higher thrust. So it's going to be even harder to slow down in descent. So if we didn't have anti-ice, I would wait till that says 2,800 feet per minute, and then I would go down at 3. If we do have anti-ice, I'll probably go down at 26, 27, give it a little bit more room so we can have time to descend. Currently, we're almost a 3-degree descent. We're probably looking for a 4-degree at 3,000 a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and press unpause. And I'm just going to speed up the video here. We're going to get a little bit closer to 2,600 feet per minute. So we'll see you when we're there. Okay, so as we approach 2,500 feet per minute, you can see that we have a 3.5 degree descent. Which I should also mention real quick is take a note of the winds. Right now, it's only a tailwind by 10, 11 knots, so don't really have to take off too much, but we usually knock off, we're aiming for a 4-degree descent. For every 10 knots of tailwind, we knock off a degree. So instead of 4, we're probably going for a 3.9, but we're already starting early anyways, so we should be fine. It's only 11 knots. There's 27. We should start getting down now. So let's go ahead and press vertical speed. That's done on the autopilot panel as well, the FCP. And I'm going to select 3,000 feet per minute. The airplane should not go more than 3 degrees a second. It does in the sim. Now I'm going to bring my thrust levers all the way idle. And I'm going to bug about 290 knots. So in real world, the airplane does not slow down that much. It usually maintains within like 5 knots or so, the 290 mark at 3,000 a minute. So I'll just kind of let it play out, but it wouldn't be decelerating that much. As you can see here, DF951 still requiring 2,700 feet per minute. That's fine. We're descending steeper than what the FMS wants. So what you're going to see happen is this number is going to start to decrease as we get lower and lower and lower, because we're steeper than the descent path. It's going to say you need 26, you need 25, you need 24, and it's going to keep counting down. So now that we're descending, we got to start thinking about slowdown. How are we going to bring 280, 290 knots? Even though we shouldn't be slowing down right now, so I don't have to actually add thrust, but you wouldn't have to in real life. But either way, let's go back to 290. We got to think about slowdown time. How am I going to bring my airplane from 290 knots to 250 knots at that 10,000 foot restriction that is pretty much in the entire world, 250 at 10,000. So to do that, quickly box my messages there. To do that, we have to go 250 at 10, so 2,000 feet away from 10,000. That's our first restriction, is 250 at 10. So 2,000 feet away from 10,000 feet, so 12,000. We're going to select our vertical speed. Instead of 3,000, we're going to select 1,200 feet per minute. So 12 at 12 is a pretty good rule of thumb, 12 at 12. So once you pass 12,000 feet, 1,200 feet a minute with idle thrust, and the airplane nicely descends onto 250 at 10,000. Let's say you had to slow down higher. Let's say you had to slow down at 250 knots at maybe 11,000 feet or 12,000 feet via the star, had a restriction at a slower speed higher up. You can do the same method, just 2,000 feet away from that restriction, 2,000 feet higher than that restriction, 1,200 feet per minute, and it will nicely slow down. Okay, there's transition 2986 is set. And just realized that we're not even on we're not even on the LNAV here. We'll go direct LNAV. Now FMS2 is captured. As I said, I kind of just started this really quickly and slewed myself up in the air. Didn't really do a full flight to capture this. Taking a look out the window, it's 2 degrees, so we're below 10 degrees Celsius, and we might start to hit some clouds. We'll see if we do. If we do, then we'll throw it on, but currently it's looking okay. I think we're going to hit that portion right there. So now we're idle thrust, staying around the 290s, 300 zone, and we got to slow from 290 to 250 by 10,000 feet. Now this system is a anti-ice system, so it's not a de-ice system. You want to throw it on prior to entering any visible moisture. So it's 5 degrees. It's pretty light, but why don't we just throw it on? Why not? We'll be safer than sorry. In descent, we'll throw the wings on as well. All right, here comes 12,000 feet. Even though it is quite light, but we'll be safer than sorry. 12,000 feet, vertical speed at 1,200. Okay, bugging 250 on my speed there. And watch how the speed nicely just drops off, and we're still descending at a good rate. Remember, we got to meet that 8,000 feet. So let's go take a look at what's required now. DF951 requires 1,400 feet to make it. So why don't we go ahead and do 1,400 and now 1,300 feet, as you can see there. So we'll select 1,300 feet per minute. And so now we're meeting 2 restrictions at once. Now we're meeting 8,000, and we're meeting 250. Here comes the clouds. It's 4 degrees. You got the anti-ice wings and cowls are on, and that can be seen by the green status right there. Okay, there's 250 knots. We still got 11,000 feet to go. Now what you can do is either play with thrust and vertical speed to maintain 250, and you'll have to still meet the 8,000. Or you can just click descend. You can click speed mode here, and it would select descend. We'll select 250 knots, and now the airplane's going to pitch for 250. That method only really works if you don't have a restriction to meet. So I'm going to stay in vertical speed because I know that I require 1,200 feet per minute. So I'm going to make sure that it is at least 1,200 feet per minute. You can use descend mode and play with your power to get 1,300 feet per minute, but this is just easier, in my opinion. And again, we're simulating we do not have the coupled VNAV function as well. I would just do it this way. It's a lot cleaner without VNAV. We barely use VNAV in real world. It does work in real world, but the VNAV works in certain circumstances, and there's sometimes where you just knock it off. You go vertical speed or descend with the speed button, and it's a lot nicer. So yeah, you just keep checking. We're at 1,200 a minute required. We're doing 13, so let's go ahead and match those up. 12 to 12. We're 250 knots, so we're okay. There's no other speed restriction unless ATC came along and said, hey, slow further. But to our knowledge, on the chart, which is right here, we went to rolls. Now we're doing DF951. They wanted us at 8, hypothetically. No other speed restriction there. It's 9 for 8. Okay, and I went to roll because there's nothing else left in the flight plan, so I'll go heading, sync, heading, and we're in heading mode. And then they would vector you for the approach, whatever approach you're doing. So there's an example of how to, from high level cruise, even higher you can do it from, get some descent planning going, execute a descent, slow down for 250, and meet your restriction en route. There comes 8,000. There's DF951, and it matches just nicer. As you do it more and more and more and more, we'll take off the wings and cowls. As you do it more and more and more, you get the restrictions you can meet those restrictions right on and get tighter. However, we did it, I think, pretty good, right? We hit 250 at 10, pretty close to 10. We had it a bit higher than 10,000, and we got 8,000 right at the waypoint. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And again, rules of thumb: 2,000 feet prior to the altitude you're leveling off at, you can select 1,200 feet per minute with idle thrust, and the speed's going to nicely gradually drop off. If you have the next rule of thumb is we roughly go for 3,000 feet per minute at idle thrust. That helps us descend and maintain about 290 knots or so, up until we have to slow down, which is that 12,000 feet, 1,200 a minute. And lastly, for descent planning, you're going to want to utilize the the direct intercept page, the vertical speed required. If you're going to require anti-ice, I would start descending 400 feet away from 3,000 a minute. And if you don't need anti-ice and there's not that much of a tailwind, remember it's 1 degree per 10 knots of tail. So instead of a 4 degree, if you had, let's say you had a 100 knots of tailwind, instead of 4 degrees, you'd be doing a 3 degree descent, because that's you'd have to be a bit shallower. But anyways, yeah, anti-ice 400 feet prior from what that says, and with so it'd be 2,600 feet. And without anti-ice, when this says 2,800 feet per minute, you can go down at 3. So you can lead it by 2. But our goal is 3,000. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You can play with the vertical speeds and kind of play around with that. And if you can't meet the restriction, you'll just tell ATC, your call sign, blah, blah, enable the next restriction or something, and just let them know that you can't do it. It's better to tell them that you can't meet the restrictions en route than just blowing through them. So I hope this video helped. If it did, please tell me down below what you liked, what you learned, and hopefully the RJ flying gets a little bit more precise and more fun. So I'll see you guys in the next video. And for now, we'll probably do another do's and don'ts. That'll probably be coming up next. So enjoy that. and we'll see you.